To join us, we're delighted to welcome Marcin Kaczorowski, who's a historian at the Memory of Nations Foundation. Marcin, welcome to TV World. Thank you for getting up so early to join us.
My pleasure.
So, the oldest constitution in Europe.
That's correct, and definitely the first one modern and the first democratic one. And the one that, in such a versatile way, constitutes the political system of the First Republic, giving a lot of new rights to townspeople and making sure that the peasants too are under the protection of the Polish king. And also an extraordinary attempt to save the First Republic from its powerful enemies, the absolutist Russia, Prussia and Austria, the military and political superpowers bent on conquering this extremely rich, we sometimes forget, very rich country that the First Republic was. For comparison, the richest landowners in the First Republic were 50 times richer than the Duke of Devonshire, which, as Norman Davies quotes. It all begins with the extraordinary man, Ignacy Potocki, the youngest head of Freemasonry in Europe, 30 years old, who also, by the way, changed the oath of Freemasonry to make sure that Poland is put first and not the cosmopolitan ideas of the secret organization. And he prepares the almost 700-point act that is rejected, by the way, at the Polish parliament at the beginning, because the king, who favored Russia, and Ignacy Potocki favored another enemy to make it a friend, so Prussia. He presents those rights, those points to the king. They are rejected. And then this incredible man of guts and vision humiliates himself, hands over the legislative initiative to the king, and they meet for weeks, conspiring. They make sure that it remains secret, because otherwise Catherine II would destroy all the attempts to reform the First Republic, because Catherine wants to make sure nothing changes in Poland. The country remains anarchic, with no army, to dominate it more easily. But then again, after Prussia's request to dismantle the First Republic.
So, how do you think did the May 3rd Constitution impact the political landscape now also, and social dynamics in Poland now during the late 18th century?
Well, we may say it almost.
Because it was supposed to be a breakthrough,
yes.
But sadly, well, alas, it did not happen.
There were serious side effects, because it was such a progressive and enlightened system that, of course, it scared the neighbors. Absolutist Russia and Prussia, they saw it as a threat to their own despotic regimes, where the subjects of the king actually were mere tools and were simply supposed to field the armies of Prussia and Russia. So they saw it as a revolutionary threat. I mean, they saw what it could do. And of course, that led to kind of preventive war against Poland. First, Prussians wanted to use Poland as a tool in their games against Russia. This is exactly the reason why Poles are capable of starting to reform the country, because Russia is entangled in its wars with Turkey. And Prussians want to use Poland to weaken Russia at the time. So that creates certain political vacuum that both the pro-Russian king Stanisław August Poniatowski, the second most important author of the constitution, uses, but more at the Ignacy Potocki's initiative, to make sure that reforms are possible. So this is the time when Polish Parliament kind of removes the shackles of the Russian control, and they say, okay, when we are siding with Prussia, they allow us more freedom to reform the country. So it was all going in the right direction, and the Ignacy Potocki's magnificent political vision was to bring England the war against Russia. This is exactly what Russia feared. They were not capable of fighting on all fronts. Unfortunately, what the Russians played well, and they had been playing it well since the times of Peter the Great, was the influence in the English Parliament. And being able to bribe the public opinion, the press, and even the people inside the English Parliament. And even though William Pitt, he is in favor of the war against Russia, but inside, unfortunately, after declaring it at the Parliament, it creates such an opposition that after 3 days, the whole idea
fell apart,
collapses. And so both the king and Ignacy Potocki were already playing in extremely difficult circumstances where Poland is surrounded by extremely powerful enemies. So they did their best, but could they really save the Polish kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, actually. I mean, one of the things, what you just said about the Russian strategy to kind of prevent the constitution from taking effect. I have so many parallels with what's happening today in terms of how the Russians are behaving to hybrid warfare, influencing the politics of other countries and so on. It's fascinating. But that aside, how has the constitution survived after these centuries? How close is today's constitution to what it was like in 1791, I believe?
The legacy. Well, I believe the greatest success of the legacy of the Third May Constitution is that Poles, in their minds, in their imagination, how Poland should work, they combine the personal freedom with the freedom of the country, which is extraordinary in those days, right? So we may say this is very close to the ideals of the French Revolution. The difference is that Polish reforms were implemented gradually and didn't end up as Jacobin extremists. We know how it all ended up,
right,
as genocide of the peasantry. So that's the first thing. Poles remember that the personal freedom is combined with the freedom of the country. That's why later, over time, it will be possible to convince even the social layers that were oppressed by the landowners. The peasants were not in such a great position. Yes, we have to admit that. But it becomes a universal idea to make a political nation out of the whole Polish people to fight for the country, to fight for the independence. Whether there are some similarities where Poland does not have very powerful executive power. I mean, when we think about the president, Polish president is somewhere between a weak presidency and medium strength, yes? So you may say that that's the similarity. The Polish Sejm also prevailed over the king. Ignacy Potocki wanted to make sure actually that the Stanisław August Poniatowski, who was not much of a lion of international diplomacy, doesn't get too many competences, but it wasn't his idea to limit the royal power for good. It's just he was waiting in his imagination for a better leader. Right. Ignacy Potocki saw, as he would call the king, the old tit or the old fag. So these are the things that we know today, because he was the man of the middle ground, always, all his life, which dangerously swayed into rotten decisions and even actually that swayed him towards treason in the end. So, and Ignacy Potocki, I keep coming back to him because he is a lion. And this figure is going to, there's be more light shed on this figure, I'm sure, in the future, because he's vastly underestimated. This is the man who, after the fall of the constitution, comes back to Poland, right, to spearhead politically the Kościuszko insurgency, Kościuszko uprising. This is the man. Yeah. And while all nobility flee, well, most of them flee the country, he comes back. And he knows that he is the most hated man by Catherine II because he is the embodiment of everything that absolutist Russia would oppose. And despite that fact, when the uprising falls after the slaughter of Praga, it was genocide of the suburbs of Warsaw, he's the man who volunteers to negotiate with Russians the conditions of surrender. Even knowing that he can be just dead on the other day. He's the one who negotiates with Suvorov. And in the end, he pays a very high price for that. He's arrested a month later. And contrary to other noblemen, he spends a very long time in prison in St. Petersburg. So this is the man who lost everything in the name of fighting for freedom. There is an upcoming dramatized biography by Agnieszka Springer-Bagiński on this extraordinary man. So I think there will be more talk of Ignacy Potocki. Zofia Zielińska, a fantastic Polish historian, also writes a lot about this process, and Krzysztof Bauer. So these are the sources I use preparing for this discussion, obviously. So these are the, I would say, ultimate authorities on the subject.
And you mentioned, well, big names, if I may say so. And I believe that what you just outlined shows that, well, this kind of freedom gene, if I may say so, it just prevailed in Poland. And we see that, for instance, with Solidarność. We see that this kind of a need of, like you mentioned, tying closely the freedom of a nation to the freedom of an individual. This is absolutely something I believe that Poland had for centuries, and it all started with the May 3rd Constitution.
Absolutely, and it also drives Poland's greatness and Poland's mistakes. Because sometimes Poles rise, but they choose the wrong moment, like during the November uprising. Yes, of course, we criticize it. Yeah, they rose too early. The Poland was not that oppressed at that time. They should have waited longer. But these are all calculations. Well, the spirit of the nation is to
absolutely
to fight
that
for the
thread has
independence.
continued, has it not? Well, unfortunately, we have to end our conversation. I found it absolutely fascinating, Marcin. Thank you very much for coming along and
My pleasure.
sharing your expertise with our audience.